Your support keeps these stories alive. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
My name is Daniel. I am 33 years old, and up until a few months ago, I thought I had built a life that was stable, if not perfect. I had a good job in project management, a modest but comfortable home, and most importantly, a wife I believed I could trust with my life. Her name is Claire. We met at a friend's barbecue almost 6 years ago, and from the first conversation, she felt different from every woman I had dated before. She was witty, disarming, and when she laughed, her eyes seemed to sparkle with something that made me want to chase her forever. From the beginning, though, there was one thing about her that weighed on me more than I admitted. She told me she could not have children. She explained it on our third date, when things were starting to get serious. I remember the way she twisted the stem of her wine glass nervously and said, "I need to be upfront with you, Daniel. I'm infertile. I had some complications years ago, and the doctors told me I can't have kids. I am not going to lie, it hit me hard. I grew up imagining one day I would be a father. My own parents weren't perfect, but the idea of passing on lessons, stories, maybe even some kind of legacy, always sat in the back of my mind. When she told me that, I remember taking a deep breath and trying to let the dream float away. Love, after all, is not about a checklist. It's about the person in front of you. So, I told her it was okay, and for years I believed it. We married after 2 years of dating, and I convinced myself that my life would be just as fulfilling without children. We would travel, build careers, maybe adopt one day. But sometimes, late at night, when she was asleep beside me, I would stare at the ceiling and wonder if I had buried a dream too deep inside me. Still, I pushed those thoughts down because I loved Claire. She was kind, supportive, and, as far as I knew, honest. That illusion shattered on a rainy Thursday afternoon. It began with something so mundane it almost feels absurd now. I was looking for my passport in her office desk. We had planned a trip abroad, and I was convinced I had left it in one of her drawers after she borrowed it for some visa application paperwork. When I opened the wrong folder, I stumbled across a stack of old photographs tucked into an envelope. At first, I smiled, thinking they were childhood pictures. But as I sifted through them, my chest tightened. These weren't childhood memories. They were pictures of Claire, my Claire, but younger, holding a toddler in her arms. Then, another photo of her, a few years older, standing next to a little boy who had her same piercing blue eyes. I froze. My hands shook. I counted them over and over, thinking maybe I was hallucinating. But there they were, 2 children, one a girl, one a boy, both unmistakably connected to her. In one picture, the boy was blowing out candles on a birthday cake, and in another, the girl had her arms wrapped around Claire's neck. I felt the ground beneath me dissolve. My first instinct was denial. Maybe these were cousins, or children she babysat. But then I noticed the way she held them, not like an aunt or a neighbor, but like a mother. And the kicker? On the back of one photo, written in her handwriting, were the words, "Me and my babies forever." I sat at her desk for nearly an hour, staring at those photos, my pulse hammering in my ears. Every moment of our marriage flashed before me, reframed with the knowledge that maybe everything had been a lie. When she came home later that evening, I confronted her. My voice cracked as I asked, "Claire, who are these kids?" Her face drained of color. She tried to snatch the photos from my hands, but I wouldn't let go. For a moment, she just stood there, trembling, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. Finally, she whispered, "I was going to tell you. I didn't know how." I wanted to scream, but my throat closed up. I managed to choke out, "Tell me what? That you had children? That you lied about being infertile?" She collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. And in a voice so small it barely felt like hers, she admitted the unthinkable. She had 2 children from a relationship before me. She had hidden them because she was terrified I would never accept her if I knew. I was stunned. Betrayal is a cold, sharp thing. It slices through you before you even know you're bleeding. My mind raced with questions. Where were these kids now? How old were they? Did they know about me? Did they know their mother had built a whole new life and erased them from it? Claire swore she hadn't abandoned them, that they were living with her ex-husband, and that she visited them occasionally in secret. She insisted she had to lie about infertility to explain why she never brought up having more children. But her words felt like acid in my ears. How could the woman I trusted with every part of myself lie about something so fundamental? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling once again, but this time I felt nothing but rage and heartbreak. Every tender moment, every promise we had exchanged, felt poisoned. And as the rain pounded against the windows, one thought burned in my mind. If she could lie about this, about children, about infertility, then what else had she hidden? The morning after Claire confessed, I woke up feeling like I had been punched in the gut. The weight in my chest was unbearable, like my ribs were trying to crush my own heart. She was still asleep beside me, her face calm, almost innocent, and for a split second, I wished I could rewind time and erase everything I had learned. But reality doesn't let you go back. It forces you forward, whether you're ready or not. I slipped out of bed quietly and sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee I barely touched. The photos from her desk haunted me. They were burned into my memory. A little boy with bright eyes, a little girl with her same smile, my wife's children she had deliberately hidden from me. When Claire finally came downstairs, the silence between us was unbearable. She tried to act normal, pouring herself coffee, but I couldn't stand it. I pushed the photos across the table and said, "We are not going to pretend this didn't happen. Tell me everything." Her hands trembled as she picked up a photo, tracing her fingers over the image. Then, slowly, she began to unravel the truth. She told me their names. Emma, the girl, was 12 years old. Jacob, the boy, was 10. They lived in another city with her ex-husband, Mark. According to her, when their marriage fell apart, she lost custody. She claimed Mark had painted her as unstable, and at the time, she didn't have the resources to fight back. So, she signed an agreement that allowed him full custody, under the condition that she could visit them a few times a year. I sat there in silence, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. Part of me wanted to believe her story, to believe she had been a victim of circumstance. But another part of me screamed that none of it excused lying to me for years. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded. "Why not from the very beginning? You had chance after chance, Claire. You let me think you couldn't have children at all." She broke down, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Because I was terrified, Daniel. Every time I thought about telling you, I imagined you walking away. Who would want a woman who lost her children? Who would want someone with that kind of past?" Her words pierced me, but they didn't soften me. I had given her my trust, my commitment, my loyalty. In return, she had built our marriage on a foundation of lies. I asked her when she last saw Emma and Jacob. She hesitated, then admitted it had been nearly a year. She had told me she was going on a work conference for a weekend. Now I knew that trip was a visit to her children. The betrayal cut deeper with every revelation. Not only had she lied about who she was, but she had looked me in the eye and fabricated entire stories to cover her tracks. Every business trip, every unexplained absence, every vague explanation suddenly made sense. The worst part was that I could see she still loved those kids. Her face softened when she spoke their names, and I realized then that it wasn't just me she had betrayed, it was them too. She had chosen to create a new life and a new marriage without ever integrating them into it. That night, I couldn't stay in the same bed with her. I grabbed a blanket and slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling again, wondering how my life had become unrecognizable in just 48 hours. But there was something else gnawing at me, something darker. I started to wonder if she had ever truly loved me, or if I had simply been a convenient escape from the life she left behind. The thought poisoned everything. The next day, I made a decision. I needed to see those kids for myself, not because I didn't believe they existed, but because I needed to understand who my wife really was. I needed to know if her story matched reality. So, while she was at work, I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched through her personal files and found the address where her ex-husband lived. My hands shook as I copied it down. It felt wrong, invasive, but I told myself the truth mattered more than my guilt. That weekend, I got in my car and drove 3 hours to a quiet suburban neighborhood. My heart raced as I pulled up to the house, a modest 2-story, with a basketball hoop in the driveway. I sat there for nearly half an hour, watching, unsure if I had the courage to knock on the door. Then, the front door opened, and 2 kids ran outside, laughing. A girl with long brown hair, and a boy dribbling a basketball. Emma and Jacob. I knew instantly. They looked exactly like Claire, and that was the moment my world collapsed completely. When I saw those kids step out of the house, it was like the air left my lungs. They didn't just look like Claire, they were Claire, in smaller form. The way Emma brushed her hair back nervously, the way Jacob's eyes lit up when he made the ball bounce just right, it was her. I sat frozen in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tight I thought it might snap. My heart hammered against my ribs, and for a moment I thought I might just drive away, pretend I never came here, pretend I could shove this whole thing back into the shadows and live the lie I had been given. But I couldn't, because those children were real. They were flesh and blood, laughing in the sunlight, while I was the man who had been robbed of the truth. I stepped out of the car before I could talk myself out of it. My legs felt heavy, like every step toward that house carried 1,000 pounds of betrayal. Jacob spotted me first. He stopped dribbling and tilted his head, curious. Emma followed his gaze and froze when she saw me. Can I help you?" she asked cautiously, her voice soft but firm, protective of her little brother in a way that twisted my gut. I swallowed hard, trying to find my voice. "Hi, I'm looking for your father. Is he home?" Emma nodded slowly, still eyeing me like I was a stranger at the edge of their world. She called inside, and moments later the man himself stepped out. Mark, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of confidence that comes from owning the space you stand in. He looked at me with suspicion. "Yeah? Who are you?" My throat tightened. What was I supposed to say? "Hi, I'm your ex-wife's new husband, the man she never told you about, and I just found out she lied about everything." But the words tumbled out anyway. "My name is Daniel. I'm Claire's husband." The silence that followed was suffocating. Mark's face hardened instantly, his jaw clenching as he glanced at the kids, then back at me. Emma's eyes widened. Jacob frowned in confusion. Claire had never told them either. Mark ushered the kids back inside, his tone sharp. "Go in the house, now." They obeyed reluctantly, Jacob dragging the basketball with him. Then Mark stepped closer to me, lowering his voice, but not his anger. "You've got a hell of a nerve showing up here," he said, his voice like gravel. "She didn't tell you, did she?" I shook my head. "No, I only found out a few days ago. She told me she couldn't have kids." My voice cracked. "She lied to me. About everything." For a brief moment, something flickered in his eyes. Not pity, exactly, but recognition. As if he knew the taste of betrayal himself. He sighed, then motioned for me to follow him around the side of the house, out of earshot of the kids. "Look, I don't know what she told you. Probably some sob story about how I ripped the kids away from her. But the truth?" She walked away. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Mark crossed his arms. "She left. She said she wasn't ready to be a mother, that she wanted something else out of life. We tried to work it out for years, but she was gone even when she was still here. So when the divorce came, I didn't fight. She didn't either. I got full custody because she didn't want the responsibility." The words hit me like bricks. My Claire, the woman who claimed she was broken by infertility, had chosen to abandon the 2 most undeniable pieces of proof that she wasn't. I wanted to reject his version of events, to defend her, but deep down I knew it lined up with the lies I had already uncovered. Mark shook his head bitterly. "She pops in once in a while, makes promises she doesn't keep, confuses the kids more than she helps them. I don't let her bring them around her new life because of exactly this. She lies. She runs." She hides. I'm not letting her screw them up any more than she already has. My chest burned. Rage, sorrow, disbelief, it all blended into one suffocating storm inside me. I didn't even realize I was crying until Mark gave me a long, assessing look. You didn't know, he said quietly, almost to himself. I shook my head. I built my entire marriage on a lie. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Mark's expression hardened again. Go home, Daniel. Don't drag my kids into her mess. If you've got a problem, take it up with Claire. But don't come back here. They've had enough confusion for one lifetime. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him I deserved answers, that I had a right to know these kids who were a part of the woman I thought I loved. But deep down, I knew he was right. The last thing Emma and Jacob needed was another adult barging into their lives with half-truths and broken promises. So I left. The drive home was a blur, my vision clouded with tears and fury. My hands shook on the wheel. Every mile between me and that house felt like another reminder that the life I thought I had was nothing but smoke. When I finally walked back into my own home, Claire was waiting. She looked at me with relief, like maybe she thought I was coming back to forgive her. But the look in my eyes must have told her everything. I saw them, I said flatly. I saw your children, and I talked to Mark. Her face went pale, her lips parting, but no words came out. And in that silence, I realized something that made my heart shatter all over again. The woman I married didn't just lie about being infertile. She lied about who she was. When I told Claire that I had seen the children, the color drained from her face as if I had slapped her. For a long moment, she just stared at me, her mouth slightly open, her hands trembling at her sides. Then she whispered, "You weren't supposed to go there." Her words were gasoline on the fire already burning inside me. Not supposed to go there? I snapped. My voice cracked like thunder through the room. I wasn't even supposed to know they exist. You let me build a life with you based on lies. Lies about who you are, about what you've done, about the fact that you are a mother. She burst into tears instantly, collapsing onto the couch as if the weight of her secrets had finally crushed her. I was going to tell you, Daniel. I was. You had years. I cut her off. My voice was shaking with rage. Years, Claire. From the day we met. From the day you looked me in the eye and told me you were infertile. Do you know what that did to me? I let go of the dream of having children. I buried it deep because I loved you. And all that time, you already had them. Her sobs grew louder, but I felt no sympathy. Not anymore. You lied about infertility. You lied about where you were going. You lied about your past. What part of our marriage was ever real? She looked up at me then, her face red and streaked with tears. I was scared. Every time I thought about telling you, I imagined you leaving me. I thought if I told you about Emma and Jacob, you'd see me as damaged, as a failure. I slammed my fist against the dining table so hard it rattled the plates. A failure? Claire, being a mother is not a failure. Abandoning your kids is. The words seemed to slice through her, and for a moment, she just sat there, stunned. Then she shook her head violently. I didn't abandon them. Mark twisted everything. He made me feel worthless, like I couldn't provide. He wanted control, and I let him have it because I didn't believe in myself. I thought starting over was the only way to survive. Her excuses sounded like ash in my ears. Maybe there was some truth to what she was saying. Maybe she had been manipulated. Maybe she had been weak. But nothing excused the fact that she let me live in ignorance, that she chose cowardice over honesty. I took a step closer, my voice low but venomous. You didn't just start over, Claire. You erased them. You erased Emma and Jacob from your story, and you erased me from the truth. Do you even understand what you've done to us? To them? To me? She reached for me then, her fingers trembling as they brushed my arm. Please, Daniel, don't leave me. I love you. I know I've made mistakes, but I swear I can fix this. We can go see them together. I yanked my arm away. Her touch felt like poison. Love? Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't build walls of lies and call it protection. Love doesn't watch someone sacrifice dreams and stay silent while holding the truth in their pocket. Her sobs turned desperate, her words incoherent between gasps for breath. I can change. I can do better. Please don't give up on me. Please don't. But I couldn't listen anymore. The sound of her voice made my skin crawl. I stormed into the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and started shoving clothes into it. She followed me, clinging to the doorway like a ghost. Daniel, please, don't do this. We can get help, counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. Just don't walk away. I paused, my chest heaving, my hands shaking over the bag. Part of me wanted to scream at her. Part of me wanted to collapse on the floor and cry until the pain stopped. But another part of me, the part that still had some dignity left, knew I couldn't stay. I zipped the bag shut and slung it over my shoulder. Claire, I said, my voice hoarse, you didn't just lie about your past. You stole my future. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that. Her knees buckled, and she slid down the doorframe, sobbing like her whole world was ending. Maybe it was. I walked out the door anyway. The night air hit me like ice, but it was cleaner than the suffocating lies inside that house. I sat in my car, staring at the dark sky, wondering how many years of my life had just been wasted. And for the first time since finding those photos, I felt something new settle in my chest. Not just grief, not just rage, but a sharp, cold clarity. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about who I was going to be from here on out. And I didn't know the answer yet. When I left that night, I drove with no destination. The city lights blurred into streaks as my eyes burned with exhaustion and grief. I ended up in a cheap roadside motel, the kind with flickering neon signs and threadbare sheets. I collapsed onto the bed, fully clothed, my bag still at my side, and stared at the ceiling in the dark. That's when the silence truly set in. For the first time since finding those photos, I wasn't caught in the storm of confrontation. It was just me, alone, left with the echo of my wife's lies. And in that silence, the reality became unbearable. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I promised forever to, had never really existed. I thought back to all the times I had defended Claire when friends or family questioned why she was so guarded. I thought about the nights we lay in bed, her whispering about a future without children, and me swallowing my disappointment in silence. I thought about every sacrifice I had made to adapt to her truth. And all along she had known that truth was a fabrication. The anger came in waves, sharp and hot. But beneath it, a deeper wound festered the grief of knowing I had been robbed. Robbed of honesty. Robbed of choice. Robbed of years of my life that I could never get back. Over the following weeks, she tried to reach me. Dozens of calls, text messages, emails filled with apologies and pleas. She swore she could explain, swore she could fix it. But every time I saw her name on my phone, my chest tightened like I was suffocating. I couldn't go back. Not this time. One evening, I finally answered not to reconcile, but to end it. She cried the moment she heard my voice, begging me to come home. I let her speak, then told her, as calmly as I could, Claire, you didn't just lie to me, you erased yourself. The woman I loved doesn't exist. I can't rebuild a marriage on a foundation that never was. Her sobs cracked through the line, but I held firm. When I hung up, I knew it was over. I filed for divorce a month later. The process was brutal. Not because we fought over money or property, there wasn't much to fight over, but because every form I signed felt like another gravestone for the life I thought I had. Friends and family asked questions I couldn't fully answer, because how do you explain a betrayal so absurd, so twisted, that it feels like fiction? But the hardest part wasn't the divorce. The hardest part was Emma and Jacob. I couldn't get their faces out of my mind. Their laughter, the innocence in their eyes. They had no idea I existed, no idea their mother had spun a new life that excluded them. And even though I wasn't their father, a part of me felt connected to them in a way I couldn't explain. Sometimes I wondered if I should try to reach out, to tell them the truth, to give them a piece of honesty their mother never could. But then I remembered Mark's words that they had been through enough confusion already. I wasn't their savior. I wasn't their protector. I was just another casualty of Claire's lies. So I let them go. And in letting them go, I started to let her go too. It's been nearly a year now. The divorce is finalized. I moved into a small apartment downtown, nothing fancy, but it's mine. Every corner of it feels honest, untainted. I've started therapy, too, something I never thought I'd do, but I needed to untangle the mess Claire left in my heart. Do I still think about her? Of course. Some nights, I wake up reaching for her, only to find empty sheets. Some days, I see a mother walking with her kids and feel a pang so sharp it brings tears to my eyes. But slowly, painfully, I'm learning to live again. What I know now is this. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of reality. It makes you question every memory, every word, every touch. But it also forces you to rebuild, to decide who you'll be when the lies are stripped away. And me? I've decided I will never again ignore the cracks in the story someone tells me. I will never again sacrifice my truth for someone else's lies. Claire once wrote, "Me and my babies forever," on the back of those photos. But forever ended the day she chose deception over honesty. My forever starts now.